So how do we use mindfulness to get out of freeze? So when we go into fight mode, we use self-kindness. When we go into flight mode, we want to use common humanity. And when we go into freeze mode, we want to use mindfulness. Hello, and welcome to this week's Factor in Action episode. This is Liz Curran, and today I'm looking forward to discussing self-compassion with you. Self-compassion is really, in its simplest terms, it's the process of turning compassion inward. It is being kind to ourselves and having that kind and understanding practice when we feel like, our instincts would be to be self-critical, moments when we fail, we make mistakes, or when we feel inadequate. We want to instead give support and encouragement instead of having a cold and judgmental approach when challenges and difficulties arise. There are 3 elements of self-compassion. The first one is self-kindness versus self-judgment. The second one is common humanity versus isolation. And the third one is using mindfulness as opposed to over-identification. So, number 1, going back to that first element of self-compassion, is self-kindness versus self-judgment. We want to use self-kindness in a sense of we're going to be warm and understanding toward ourselves. When we suffer, fail, or feel inadequate, we take that kindness approach. Rather than judging, ignoring our pain, showering ourselves with self-criticism, we want to really take the kindness and replace the judgment. Self-compassionate people are people who recognize that being imperfect and failing is all part of the human condition. We are all going to go through this at some point in our lives, some more regular than others. And the idea of when that occurs, we are gentle with ourselves during these painful experiences, rather than getting angry or having negative emotions come into the picture when our expectations aren't met. Second one, common humanity versus isolation. This is a good one. This is an important element here. So over the course of a lifetime, we are all human. We are all going to experience suffering and difficult emotions, self-doubt, different things like that. And we're not alone. The most important thing is to know that we will all experience these feelings at some point, and we are not alone in those moments. When we're in isolation, it can feel really easy to go down the rabbit hole of, I'm the only one that has this happening to me right now, and just feeling very isolated in your feelings. So how can we avoid that isolation feeling is by using that common humanity, by leaning in and knowing that this is a behavior that we will all realize at some point in our lives. There is going to be suffering, there's going to be inadequacy, and it's just part of the human experience that we will all go through at some point. So when you're feeling that kind of isolated, I'm the only one this has ever happened to, or I'm the only one that feels this way, a way to counteract that is through common humanity. And then lastly, we have mindfulness versus over-identification. And just the true definition of mindfulness is paying attention on purpose, without judgment, in the present moment. And this approach will allow you to kind of let go of what you should be thinking or feeling and doing, and take a more balanced approach of observing it with curiosity. What is going on in that moment, rather than suppressing and exaggerating these critical thoughts, just trying to stay in the moment and stay present. There was a funny story that one of my meditation teachers shared once that really kind of drives this point home. She was walking down the stairs and her knee hurt, and her mind immediately went to, my daughter hadn't left that box on the floor, I wouldn't have tripped over it, and then my knee wouldn't hurt. And really the mindfulness approach is, I'm walking down the stairs and my knee hurts right now, period. But when you lean into that story, it can exaggerate. Then all of a sudden, beyond the knee pain, you're having anger at the person who left the box out. You're frustrated that you tripped over the box. There's a lot of story that kind of gets looped into that. So to avoid that, we want to just stay in the moment, stay in that mindful place where I'm walking down the stairs and my knee hurts. How can I breathe into that pain? How can I rest the knee and not just get lost in the story? So mindfulness allows us to be present in our experience, helps us identify our feelings, our needs, and those physical sensations, rather than getting lost in the story. Now, I love Kristen Neff. She is a phenomenal self-compassion researcher. She has this great book called Self-Compassion, among many others. She has Fierce Self-Compassion. She partners with another fantastic author, Christopher Germer. They do a lot of work together, mindfulness, self-compassion. But what I love, one of her greatest learnings that I have taken from her work is this little formula she's created called it's pain plus resistance equals suffering. And so to the point is we have pain, right? Pain happens. We have difficult things that occur in our lives. But when we resist it, that's when the suffering occurs. So if we can stay in that mindful place where we have the pain, but then we don't add to it with the resistance, and then the suffering is eased. So keep that formula in mind. Pain plus resistance equals suffering. So pain without the resistance should ease that suffering. Hopefully that resonates with you the way that it does for me. And when we are thinking about the releasing suppressed emotion factor, a lot of times when we talk about this factor, we discuss the nervous system and how we want to stay in balance. We're going to have those fight or flight moments where we're triggered and we have these stress responses. And then we have those other moments where we're in rest and relaxation and digest and a much more calm place. So we will fluctuate in and out of those states throughout our day, throughout our lives. And the trick is to be able to be in balance and regulate when we are in fight or flight. How can we bring it back? How quickly can we bring it back and stay in that balance? And self-compassion is a great tool for that. So if we have a fight response, that typically can be where we become self-critical. We start thinking self-critical thoughts, and the way we can counteract that is utilizing that self-kindness. So yes, this is a difficult moment. I acknowledge that this is hard and I want to feel differently. So I'm going to take that kindness approach rather than think, I'm so stupid. How did this happen? I'm not good enough. Those kind of thoughts. We want to counteract them with self-kindness. The flight response, so if something happens and you want to get out of there, that's the isolation. That's when isolation kicks in. You run away, you remove yourself, you feel alone, and this is only happening to you. Again, common humanity is going to counteract that. We want to realize that this can happen to other people. It has happened to other people. It will happen to other people again in the future, whatever the incident is, and lean into that perspective over feeling isolated. And then we have the freeze response where we don't flight and we don't fight. We are stuck in our thoughts. We start to ruminate, and the rumination, that over-identification really kicks in. So how do we use mindfulness to get out of freeze? So when we go into fight mode, we use self-kindness. When we go into flight mode, we want to use common humanity. And when we go into freeze mode, we want to use mindfulness. So there are some really beautiful tools that you can use in the moment. But when you're feeling super frustrated, whether it's, you are feeling that you're in isolation, or you are over-identifying, or you're just in that kind of inner critic place, you can take these soothing touch techniques. So taking 2 hands over the heart is the first one. And then just have a few breaths. And this is a body language that can be utilized anywhere. Another one is cupping your hand over your heart and then covering it with the other hand. So cupping your hand, making a fist, covering it with your other hand and putting it over your heart. And then again, breathing there. That can be a very empowering feeling. So utilizing that to foster empowerment is a great soothing touch tool. Another one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly, following the breath. It can be very soothing, very calming and grounding. And then you just kind of follow your breath from your chest to your belly and back and forth until you feel better. Another one that I really like in those moments where we're feeling really low and we need that support, if there's no one else around to give us that support, we can always look within. We are here for ourselves with self-compassion. So taking hands and cradling your face, to me, that's just one that really resonates. So really feeling connectedness. It's a supportive feeling. It's very self-loving. And I really like that one when I'm feeling very low and alone. And then the last one I'll suggest is crossing the arms and, giving yourself rub your arms up and down. It's a gentle hug. And we can give ourselves these hugs and elicit those happy hormones and that internal pharmacy in our brain and really activate that so that we feel that love and that touch. So soothing touch is a really great technique to utilize when you're in a place of needing some more self-compassion. It will help you foster from within. And there is a common activity that is recommended by many different self-compassion practitioners. Kristen Neff probably created it, I'm guessing. And it's when we want to, the activity is when you think of yourself in a difficult situation, something that comes to mind whether it was last week, last year, or a long time ago. When you think about that moment, maybe you didn't respond in a situation the way you would have liked, or it was very difficult, you were in a heated argument, whatever it was, something that you may have negative self-talk around and just beating yourself up. Maybe you're thinking, oh, I was so stupid. How could I have said that? I'm not good enough. These kind of negative inner critic conversations that we have. We want to take those moments and pause, and then imagine that that issue, that exact story, is actually our best friend's story. And then we talk to that friend. How would you talk to a friend in those moments? You're not going to tell your friend, you were so stupid. I can't believe you said that. You're not good enough. You're going to tell your friend that, you know what? These things happen sometimes. It's a difficult situation. Don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody goes through things like this sometimes. Maybe, breathing techniques, things that you might share with your best friend when they're going through a difficult situation. Turn that back to yourself and look within. How does it feel when you take that approach as opposed to that negative self-talk? It can be very powerful. This can also be done in a journaling prompt. So lots of different ways to access this activity. And I highly recommend taking some time to think about this activity so that the next time you're in one of those moments, it is a tool that you have ready to go. So thank you so much for tuning in to this week's Factor in Action episode. If you need help developing self-compassion, please visit radicalremission.com/about us to connect with us directly. And if you need help in this area, please visit Health Navigators at healthnavs.com for a free discovery session to check out our upcoming events and to be sure to subscribe, follow, like, and keep in touch with us so that you never miss a video.